Dakota,
Hey.
the perfect couple. And not only that, but honestly, like all of the other projects that you've worked on, like in your career, Dakota, you started, if I'm not mistaken, at the age of 6, correct?
That's right.
You've also already at the age of 31, 32 years old received an
31,
Emmy.
31.
31. Listen, we're not gonna bump it up. You You've already received an Emmy nomination. You've been a part of so many projects from The Ripley, The Equalizer, The First Lady. The list goes on and on and on and on. But before we get into the Netflix series, The Perfect Couple, I
Yes.
personally would like to ask, like, what projects so far in your career do you hold like the nearest and the dearest to your heart if you had to choose?
That's interesting. I think I always hold the first movie, I Am Sam, with Sean Penn and Michelle Pfeiffer, maybe the closest just because it was my first real big opportunity and kind of I my life before that movie and my life after that movie was very different, and then I hold that experience very dear because it kind of changed, I think, the course of my life and career,
Yeah.
and it was such a special film and a wonderful director, Jesse Nelson, who was so loving towards me and kind of having that experience as my first experience in a movie. Um, I just feel very, very lucky for that because it was a really just beautiful experience, and being so young and
Yeah.
being so well taken care of by those people on set, and it was just a very special experience and a special movie looking back on.
Yeah. And of course, I have to act like I literally have to ask you this question. And I hate it because I know that at this point, you've been probably asked this question a billion times. You know, we got to get into this dance.
That's all right.
We
Yeah.
have to get into this dance scene, Dakota. If I'm not mistaken, it was literally only one person originally on board with this dance kickoff, right?
And it was not me, let me tell you.
I I know, but listen, why were you not on board with
I'll
it?
tell you. Also, so the email came in over the holidays
Mhm.
with this dance, and I was like, I was like, what is going on? Like, and what it comes down to, which I've been honest about since, I was always going to do, if Suzanne Bier asked me to do something, I was always going to do it. And that's where ultimately all the dissenters fell. We were like, we'll do whatever Suzanne wants at the end of the day. But
Okay.
I was afraid. I was like, I'm going to look dumb. Like, I'm not going to be able to do it. Like, what? I have to learn to dance. Like, I think it was my fear that was making me anti the dance. And then once I talked to Suzanne about it, I was like, oh my God, you know what? It actually makes so much sense
Yeah.
because she wanted to prepare the audience that you're kind of going into something that looks like real life, but it's a heightened tone. Like
Yeah.
it's a very specific, exaggerated, heightened tone, and that it's gonna be, this show is like candy. It's not
Yeah.
taking itself too seriously. Like we're all kind of in on the joke of this world. And so I think the dance sequence at the beginning kind of prepares the audience that you're about to watch something that is a little to the left of center, like tonally.
Absolutely.
So it was like the most fun thing to shoot. Like we all were laughing, had the best time, like couldn't wanted to keep doing it.
Yeah.
And so yes, it was very funny that we all were so scared and annoyed and didn't want to do it, and then in the end like had the best time ever.
By chance, do you remember how many takes it consisted of?
We we didn't do it that many times. I mean, we
Mm.
practiced it a lot, but actually shooting it, I feel like we only did it like 3 or 4 times, like not that many. And
Really?
it was the last thing that I shot.
Okay.
It was the last thing that I filmed, and it was fun that because we were all together and we were all, just like trying to everyone was like trying to do it the best every time, you know. It's really funny.
Yes. I want to get into your character, Abby.
Yeah.
Abby was very interesting, very layered. Like, first of all, this whole show was interesting. Of course, I loved it. It's definitely a series that was like very bingeable. Like, I think I literally binged it in one day. Nevertheless, Abby was quite interesting. Would you say that she was, just really truly all about herself and her own self gain? Or was it more or less just like, listen, I've married into this rich, weird family. I'm kind of like caught up into the whole rigmarole of how they do things. And I'm just vibing with the selfishness and the richness of it all. Which which
Yeah.
which side would you say Abby was on?
I think it's maybe a little bit of both. I mean, it's like I'm always, and people are like, yeah, totally. You don't have to say that. I'm like, obviously, the things that she says and does are terrible, right? Like
Yeah.
they're bad. But in terms of, again, the heightened specific tone that, the show kind of inhabits,
Yeah.
it's like there's one way to look at her, which is, oh, she's just like a, you know, uh, totally just like keeping up with the Joneses, like, you know,
Yeah.
villain, right? Like just like, oh, she's the worst. You can look at her that way, and that can be totally true. And then the other way that I also found some empathy for her, because when you're playing a character, it's really not helpful to think they're just a bad person. You have to try and understand kind of why they're doing the things that they do. And so for me, it's like I saw it as she feels like she's the only one that is preserving this family and preserving and selfishly for herself and her unborn child. She's like, if this person comes in and takes all the money, then there's going to be nothing left for me and my kid, and now I'm here and my husband sucks, and like they're all weird, and she's gotten sucked into the keeping up with the Joneses and the wanting and the constant like need for more,
Mhm.
and that kind of greed. And so it's warped her reality of like morals and right and wrong.
Yeah.
But to her, I see it as she thinks she's doing what anyone would do in her situation,
Exactly. Exactly.
So I think it's a little bit of both of what you said, and up to a little bit of, how the viewer wants to watch this show, if they want to try and reason why people are doing the things that they're doing, or just watch it to be entertained by these outrageous characters. I think you can
Yeah.
kind of watch it and enjoy it both ways.
Yeah, and I think like reflecting on previous projects that you've worked on, would you say that Abby is one of those characters that you enjoyed the absolute most, like tapping into compared to other roles that you've said yes to? Or like, okay, I can tell. I can see it in the laugh. This man,
I
you're
mean, like
blushing, Dakota.
the things that she says, like,
Yeah,
the line where she's talking about her friend who was dating the guy who was loaded and 5'6". I'm sure they were very much in love. I mean, those are just things that people don't,
yeah.
you just don't say that, and you
Mhm.
don't, there's not a lot of characters that you find that kind of just say
Yeah.
the most outrageous thing at every turn. And so I just leaned into
Um,
that, and getting to kind of have those little quips and comments that are socially unacceptable.
which make for amazing viral moments,
Yeah.
right? So I think like I want to peel back the leaning in aspect of our girls' chat. Let's talk about the prosthetics. Like,
Mhm.
was there first of all, how many pounds like added onto you was it like a pregnant suit? Was it something that was like custom made and tailored for your body
There
and you
was
just slipped it
two.
on?
Yeah, there were two. There were two. The stomach that I wore every day was actually super light. It was foam and just had like a layer of silicone on the outside, and it was just like a bodysuit, like a half bodysuit, and it was kind of hook and eyed in the back, and then like, a bodysuit, and it was I got so used to it. It wasn't heavy or anything, and it like sat the exact way. And seeing the costume designer, like we did so many fittings of finding dresses that like worked with the bump. So there was never a costume that like, oh, it doesn't really work with this. Like everything was really thought out, a lot of empire waisted stuff, so it would, just flow over the belly. And then the scene where I'm in the bikini, we
Hmm.
were like, okay, well, it would be really easy to just do a one piece bathing
Yeah.
suit. But we were like, we gotta do a two piece and we gotta like really sell this stomach. And
Hmm.
so that one was a prosthetic, but it's still just corseted in the back because the back of me's never shown. So it wasn't like glued on or anything, but it was made for me and like painted and had like my actual like freckles that I have. Like it was crazy. It
Yeah.
was so real.
Yeah.
It was so real. And people on set were like staring. They're like, I'm so sorry I'm staring at you, but I cannot process this. Like, it
Yeah.
looks so realistic. And then weirdly, a lot of people in my life, like, not obviously close people, but like, I was getting texts saying, like, oh my God, I didn't know that you like were pregnant. And I was like,
Well, I'm not really
I'm not
pregnant,
really
guys.
proud. I was literally like, what is going on? Like people were like had a they it looked so real that they thought it must they were like, were you pregnant when you were, and I was like, what are you talking about? Like,
Well,
no,
listen, that's a big
it's a
kudos.
show and a role and a care. Like I'm so confused. But it really tricked people. It really tricked
Wow.
people and looked real. And so it was cool that it ended up being so realistic, and it was fun to have that moment in the bathing suit where you actually get to see it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, big kudos to the costume
I
design
know,
team and the
incredible.
cinematographers behind the scenes of all of that. But before we wrap, Dakota, I feel like we're just getting started. And I know you have a busy
Yeah.
day and schedule ahead. But my quick fire two questions are, what is your dream project at this point in this phase of your career? And what's currently on your playlist?
Oh, my playlist. That's good.
Mhm.
My dream project, well, I want to work with my sister
Oh,
someday, so that's something we're constantly trying to figure out.
yeah.
Acting together. We haven't done that yet, so that's something that I'm very excited for when that happens. And then my playlist is Dochi all the way.
Oh. I love it. Are you going to listen? Are you going to watch the BET Awards today?
For sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm upset. I saw her perform live a couple months ago, and oh my God,
She
she is
killed it.
unreal.
I
Yeah.
know what performance you're talking about. She totally killed it. And
Yeah,
she,
that it was the H&M event, that it was at that festival, that and I it was like I was blown away. My
yeah.
girlfriends and I were blown away. It was so fun.
Well, Dakota, thank you so much for making time to chat with me
No
today. I look
problem.
forward to chatting with you again very, very, very soon. Thank
Thank you.
you
Me
so
too.
much.
Have a good day.